Hi everyone, I hope all is well. My name is Ashanti and welcome to Uniquely Ashanti's Corner. As you can see from the title, I am going to be sharing um, tips on how you can respectfully bring it to one's attention that they are using God's name in vain. I decided to touch on this as a type of follow-up to a video that I made a few months ago where I shared my 2-month social media fasting experience to grow closer to God. And if you have not seen it, take a look at it. After you watch this, I'll have it in the description somewhere so you can see it. From what I have seen, it seems like there are no videos on YouTube that discuss this topic. However, there are some websites out there that do, which I'll discuss a little bit later in the video. So hopefully by me doing this, it will inspire others to discuss this topic on their social media platforms. And with that being said, let's get started with tip number 1, which is make sure the person you are looking to approach is open to being rebuked. There is a passage in Proverbs chapter 9 verses 7 through 8 which says, "He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee." Excuse me. And in case you are not aware of what this means, this is basically saying that if you critique someone who either isn't a Christian and is a mocker, or someone you're not familiar with, or is completely closed off to hearing critiques about themselves, it only leads to heated debates and mockery. If you approach someone, make sure that it's someone you have formed some type of close bond with, such as a friend, a really good acquaintance, or a coworker who respects and values your opinion. Now, if it's someone that you've never met, someone you never met in person, but you know them through social media, now, sometimes this can be a little bit more challenging since we don't really know those that we encounter on social media, right? You really have to use your best judgment on this. If you've been interacting with someone for a certain length of time and it seems like that they're open to you sharing opinions, then it's worth a try. That is, if you feel led to say something. Tip number 2, seek God's guidance. Make sure you stay in prayer and allow God to help you with the right words to say. Also, as I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that you are being led to do this and you're not just acting on impulse. Now, I'm sure you guys are probably wondering about now, how exactly can you start off this conversation with someone? This is where the websites that I mentioned earlier come into play. In the description box, you will find links to some sites where people share their creative approaches to raising this topic to others. Take a look at them and find ones that are more appealing to you. And quick side note, if you happen to not see the links, can you please let me know, because most likely I forgot. So please let me know if it's not there. Tip number 3, decide when and where you are going to approach them. If you see them on a regular basis, you can pull them to the side and tell them that you would like to talk to them. It's best to address something like this one-on-one with someone. If it's not possible for you to meet this person because of your schedule or whatever the case may be, the next best option is to send an email. If it's someone from social media that you're attempting to approach, then you have a few options. If you're more familiar with this person, meaning that you have talked to them outside of social media through, what are some ways? Through email, on the phone, or video chatting, then you can choose one of those methods to reach out to them about it. If you don't feel comfortable with this method, then you can take time to construct a detailed comment to post on their page. Which brings me to my next tip. Tip number 4, which is make sure you are using a friendly approach. Please make sure that you are using a friendly approach. A lot of times it's not what we say, but it's how we say it that makes an impact. Do not approach someone with a holier than thou type of attitude and attacking them with scriptures. There is absolutely nothing wrong with using scripture, but make sure that you are using them wisely. such as to support what you're saying. You want to make sure the person that you're addressing is comfortable as you're talking to them so they receive your message. If they sense any type of hostility, they will rebel against everything that you say. Tip number 5, be prepared to face criticism. This is especially true if you choose to craft a detailed comment to someone on social media, which will be public. Some people who read your comment may have some words with you if they strongly disagree or they feel like that you are attacking the person that you're talking to, even though your message can clearly show that you're not. People can really be mean and say things that get under your skin, but the last thing that you want to do is engage in it. I know that it is hard to do this sometimes, I know, but when you argue back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with someone, you are giving them power over you. You are allowing them to take your joy, you're allowing them to take your precious time that can be used towards something more productive. And a perfect example of walking away that instantly comes to mind for me is in chapter 28 of Jeremiah in the Bible. There was a false prophet named Minaya, hopefully I said that correctly, who publicly shared false teachings that argued against Jeremiah's, which came directly from God himself. And Jeremiah calmly corrected Hananiah, retelling him the prophecy that God told him. And Hananiah didn't want to hear it. He just snatched the yoke that was around Jeremiah's neck, broke it, and angrily proclaimed that Jeremiah was a liar, just making a complete scene in public in front of the religious leaders that were present. And you know what Jeremiah did? He was still. He was silent. And he just walked away from him. Hananiah was nothing but a distraction to Jeremiah, and he wasn't going to let a false prophet stop him from fulfilling the assignment that God had given him, which is to spread the Heavenly Father's word to others. You just got to pray for people like that and keep it moving. Now, of course, it's different if someone is asking questions and seeking understanding of what you said. Then you can respond to those comments. But if the person is clearly trying to pick an argument with you, be like Jeremiah and walk away. And another thing I want to mention is that you also might face criticism from the person that you are addressing the message to. Even though you may have known them for a long time or it's a family member, they could still rebel against what you're saying about their actions because they just haven't opened their heart to Christ, even though they may say that they love Jesus. They may argue or decide to completely ignore you. It's the reality of things. It's happened to me a few times before. In fact, I plan on sharing an experience about this in a future video, so be on the lookout for that because I'll be doing that soon. Tip number 6, don't be discouraged if the person rebels. It can be very hard to see that someone that we truly care about refuses to change their ways. We could have known this person for years and all of a sudden the relationship is just over that quick, like that. And some of us wonder, why would God lead me to talk to this person if this would be the outcome, if it would cause this type of result? And here's the thing. As we grow closer to God, He helps us to clean out our lives. And He will reveal elements and people that are keeping you, or I should say keeping us, all of us, from fully seeking Christ. Even in the Bible, it says that when you take up your cross to follow Christ, you'll find yourself separating from family, you'll find yourself separating from friends. And while it might hurt, you have to understand that you cannot force someone to turn their life to Christ. You just can't do that. They have to want that relationship for themselves. Excuse me. And you can't beat yourself up about it thinking that you did something wrong. God sees what you're doing, and He is very well pleased that you are following His word. All you can do now is just pray for that person. Also, you cannot fear the possibility of being alone. Some people hold back on critiquing someone's actions because they fear that they'll get mad, never want to see them again, and find themselves all alone because they have no one else to talk to. And in Galatians chapter 1, verse 10, this is coming from the King James Version. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. All verses mentioned are from the King James Version. Anyway, it says, "For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ." It's important for us to understand that we are not condemning someone else or acting holier than thou if we are critiquing them and you end up parting ways. It's about making sure that there is nothing blocking us from growing closer to Christ and showing respect to Him. Instead of viewing solitude as a burden, view it as an opportunity to grow closer to Christ. Learn more about yourself and take time to form new relationships that are pleasing to God. So I covered 6 tips on how to approach someone you have a relationship with. But now let me just briefly focus on those that you don't. Like I mentioned before, approaching someone you're not familiar with is just a recipe for disaster. And on top of that, you'll see and hear God's name being used in vain from many sources. You're going to see it in books. You're going to see it in ads. You're going to see it in the radio. Well, not see it in the radio, hear it in the radio, and strangers around you. However, on a website, what was it called? I think it was talkjesus.com. It shared a very useful tip on how to address this, which is to bless God's name and thank Him out loud or in your head whenever you hear or see someone using His name in vain. Not only does this help to prevent you from doing it, it also gets you into the habit of praising God more. And I've started doing that recently, and it is really helpful. So on that note, I am going to bring this video to a close. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to check out the websites in the description box that I mentioned for further tips. And if it's not there, please let me know so I can put it there. Also, make sure you check out my social media fast video if you have not done so already. It'll be in the description box as well. Please feel free to leave your thoughts down below. And if you have additional tips that you want to share, I don't know why I almost got tongue-tied. I guess because I'm a little tired. Feel free to do so. I would love to hear from you, and so will others who read the comments. If you do leave a comment, please refrain from profane language, even if it's an abbreviation, and please be respectful. God bless each and every single one of you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.